Welcome back to Infant Investors, the home for all new and non-investors. I'm Curtis, and today we've got another investment video for you, and I'm going to be talking about when Kevin O'Leary thinks you should have $100,000 or pounds or euros, we're not prejudiced, saved. So I'm going to take you through this article. I'm going to read this article and, give my opinion on his thoughts about when you should have $100,000 saved. And then I'm also going to give my personal view on, the types of goals that you guys potentially should be setting or should be aiming for. Now, obviously, everybody's financial situation is different. So think of this more as a behavioral mindset as opposed to the actual figures when I give my personal opinion. But I think it's going to be interesting to find out what he thinks and, compare it to what I think. I think it's interesting anyway. So if you want to know more, please like, please comment, please subscribe. I'm on a mission to get to 2,500 subscribers and get the world of investing out to more people in a clear, simple and transparent manner. But first, Kevin O'Leary, this is the age when you should have at least $100,000 or pounds or euros saved. If you don't know who Kevin O'Leary is, he is Mr. Untouchable from Shark Tank. He is an investor, a businessman. He has his own venture capitalist firm. And me personally, I'm a student of life. So what I mean by that is that I like to learn and take bits and bobs from loads of different people that are successful in areas that I really want to be successful in, whether it's Warren Buffett, whether it's Ray Dalio, whether it's Peter Jones or someone from Dragon's Den, whether it's someone from Shark Tank, whether it's a rapper or a musician or, a fashion designer or, someone that's building, I don't know, ships in Taiwan. It doesn't really matter, to be honest. If someone is saying something that I think I can take some value from, I try and mix it all up in a pot and, try and, become closer to that is probably the best way I can kind of put it. So, he's got some interesting insights, so I wanted to take you through it. Although Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary says he doesn't like to peg a number to certain financial milestones, he does believe there is a point in one's life where they should have at least 6 figures saved. By the time you hit 33 years old, you should have at least $100,000 saved, or pounds or euros, somewhere. Make that your goal. 33 and $100,000, O'Leary tells CNBC. Make it. Why 33? O'Leary says it's the tipping point in a person's life when they have to focus on saving money, and if they don't, they fall behind the 8th ball. While he admits that amount may sound impossible to most Americans, research has shown that a majority, 57% of Americans, according to 2018 GoBankingRates.com data, or data if you're American, don't even have $1,000 saved. Well, I mean, that kind of contradicts it, but whatever. He says anyone can do it if you start saving early enough. I'll tell you how. You save 20% of your paycheck and you let the market grow at 5% to 7% a year, and you can get to $100,000, O'Leary says. For example, if you're 22 and making a median salary of $48,400, 22 and a median salary of $48,400, for new graduates, and you start saving 20% per paycheck, that amounts to $9,680 a year. Even if you keep the same salary and assume no interest, saving that amount for 11 years gets you $106,480 by the age of 33. By investing the same money and assuming O'Leary's 5% growth, that gives you $144,397 in the same amount of time. The S&P 500 index has averaged annual returns of approximately 10% since its inception in 1926. Whether that's the right time frame to look at, that's another debatable point. You have to start in your 20s. You just have to, because you want to end up in your 60s with a boatload of cash sitting in investments so you can kick back and relax a little bit, O'Leary says. However, while he does advocate for saving as much money as you possibly can, he believes it's more important to be debt-free by the age of 45 than anything else. If you want to find financial freedom, you need to retire all debt. And yes, that includes your mortgage. O'Leary told CNBC Make It last year. The reason I say 45 is the turning point, or in your 40s, is because think about a career. Most careers start in early 20s and end in the mid 60s, O'Leary said. So when you're 45 years old, the game is more than half over, and you better be out of debt because you're going to use the rest of the innings in that game to accrue capital. So Leary says you've got to have $100,000 saved by 33 years old. Okay, my personal opinion on this, and I'm going to go through this actually. I think that's very, 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 very ambitious. And I think there are some slight contradictions here personally, but you know, maybe this is just my skew. If he says, while he admits that amount of money may sound impossible to most Americans, research has shown that a majority, you would expect that actually research would show something positive. Research is basically showing that the majority of Americans, 57%, don't even have $1,000 saved. So if that is the majority of Americans, then how they're going to get to $100,000 is, to be honest, beyond me. And yes, we're talking about Americans here, but to be honest, I've looked at UK data and it's pretty much a similar situation, to be honest. So he says, I'll tell you how. You save 20% of your paycheck, 5 to 7%. Okay, 5 to 7% a year. If you put it in S&P 500, you will do that. I definitely think you'll do 7%, maybe even more. So I agree with that, absolutely. But he talks about if you're 22 and making a median salary of $48,400 for new graduates, that in the UK is about £39,000. £39,000 a year, 22 years old for new graduates. Call me crazy, you know, call me crazy. Maybe I'm sipping on, I don't know, smoking or something else. But listen, all I know is when I was 22, I was not on no 39,000 a year, like at all. Nowhere near it, like nowhere near it at all. So maybe, you know, with interest and, you know, rates have gone up and salaries have gone up and so forth, but 22 and 39,000 pounds. I can't speak for the US. I can speak for the UK though. That feels a little bit, graduate or not, that feels a little bit stretched, personally speaking. So even if you go down the 20% route, I don't think the majority of people would be on £39,000 or $48,400. So that for me is a little bit stretched, and that's why it's a little bit of a fake calculation. Obviously all of these calculations then make sense if you follow it through from there, but it does say the S&P 500 index has average annual returns of approximately 10% since its inception in 1926. I don't think looking at it from 1926 is an accurate reflection, just because there was a lot of events that happened, I think, I can't remember, in the 30s or 40s or 50s or something, and that's when the S&P 500 just spiked. And so, you know, since like the 60s or 70s, it's more been about 6 or 7% average rather than 10% average. So again, I mean, it's a nice, you know, data point to look at, but I don't know if it's the best data point to look at. He then goes on to say you want to have a boatload of cash in your 60s. That's true, of course you do. But he says it's more important to be debt-free by the age of 45, which includes your mortgage. Now, you know, if somebody is even saving for a deposit to buy a house, then manages to get a mortgage, let's say by the time they're 30, and, you know, if we look at mortgage data, people aren't really getting mortgages until their 30s or mid-30s, then you're basically saying pay off your mortgage in 10 years, but also still have $100,000 saved. Again, I think that's even, you know, more of a stretch target, personally speaking. I get the fact that 45 is in the middle of your, you know, your career, your time frame, so that all makes sense. But overall, my take on this is that this is a little bit ambitious. Call me crazy, feel free to call me crazy. I personally think this is a little bit ambitious, personally. So I'm going to give my take on when I think you should have, and I'm going to use the motivated compound interest calculator. You would have seen this in previous videos that I've done talking about compounding interest. One thing I do agree with is that if you put your money in the S&P 500, you will grow on average at least 5 to 7%. So I'm even going to put 7% because I just think that is very, very realistic on a yearly basis. Now we're going to go take a 22-year-old, a typical 22-year-old. I don't think they're going to be on no 39,000. I think on average they might be on, say, 25, personally, something along those lines. So I'm saying, look, if you're on 25k, you should be trying to save not 20% of your salary, but 10%. That's gonna be what I'm gonna, you know, say that I think is definitely realistic. You might have rent, you might have, you know, bills, you might have debts, car payments, you know, things going on in your life. I think 10%, is a realistic figure that you can discipline and save. And if you can do more, perfect. If you can do less, then obviously do what you can. So 10% of the gross figure, we're talking about 2,500. So you start with nothing and you have 2,500 every year. You know what? I'm going to up it actually to about 3,000. So just over, I'm going to say that roughly works out to be about 11 or 12%. So that's like £250 a month, which I think is probably, potentially doable if you're on 25k. Then for a number of years, let's say that person is going to do it for what? These are 22 years old to 11 to 33, right? So 11 years at 7%, and you'll probably get your interest like 4 times a year. Calculate. I think that the average 22-year-old, if they saved £250 or dollars or euros on a monthly basis with the S&P 500, just putting it into that ETF and letting it grow, by the time they're 33, I would say half that is more realistic, £50,000 or dollars or euros. That's my personal opinion on what I think is realistic. I think the numbers in Kevin O'Leary's article are very, very ambitious. And, people like me, I like to think of objectives with the SMART acronym. So for those of you that SMART acronym is what I think is like: simple, measurable, achievable, realistic, time bound. So this is obviously a simple goal. If simple is the right first letter, I don't know, I can't remember, but definitely it's measurable. I think the key word is if it's achievable. If you start setting goals and every month you're not hitting them in terms of your financial savings, then it's kind of pointless, because if you say I'm going to save £500 a month, but the first month you save 400, the next month you save 200, the next month you save 150, the next month you save £372.98, then you can't save £500 a month. You've gone 4 months without doing it. So really and truly, set yourself a goal like £300 a month that you can guarantee you can save on a monthly basis, or 200 or 100, whatever it is that's relative to your financial situation. When I first started saving many moons ago, £250 a month was my initial figure of saving. And so I was trying to save £3,000 on a yearly basis. I was just saving it in cash. I was getting 5% on a fixed rate savings account. I wasn't saving it in no stocks or no investments or anything at that time. I was just literally saving it in cash. Obviously, I wanted to build up my deposit, buy houses, etc., etc. So for me, this is more of a realistic figure. And obviously, £50,000 by the time you're 33, there's a lot of 33-year-olds that wouldn't have that amount saved for various reasons, not necessarily through any fault of their own, but people have children or different financial situations, and that obviously will have a potential impact. But I would say focus on at least £250 a month. Now if you can obviously do more, then do more. If you can do say £500 on a monthly basis, then you're talking about 6,000 a year, and now you're talking that's £100,000, dollars or euros that you can do on by the time you hit 33, starting at 22 years old. And I think you have to work out on a situation that's relative to yourself. But I would say I'm going to leave this link in the description and go have a play with it, and try and work out how much you can save on a regular basis towards your future and towards financial freedom. Where I do absolutely fundamentally agree with him is to be debt free. Being debt free for me is so important. The amount you will pay on your credit cards, on your overdrafts, on your personal unsecured loans, the interest rates, the APRs, maybe not so much now because interest rates have gone down, but still, to be honest, it kind of depends on your credit rating. So the likeliness is you will pay more in interest than you will earn in the stock market or in savings or in any other form of investment. So getting rid of your debt and making sure you have as much of a disposable income as possible is most definitely the important thing. And obviously, if you do have a mortgage and you can clear it by the time you're 45, then that will be an advantageous thing. I know a lot of you guys who are investing so you can actually buy a house. And so obviously trying to buy a house, your primary objective should be, one, increasing your salary as much as you possibly can, whether it's getting promotions or getting new jobs, etc., etc. And two, obviously saving up for that deposit. And you know, it is very difficult to get properties nowadays. Property prices have soared for many years, and getting on the property ladder isn't as easy as it once was, when, you know, Margaret and Beatrice and Ethel, you know, and them gal there were, you know, getting their mortgages back in the 60s and 40s for like, you know, £3.80, you know, buying a house in like, you know, Chelsea and crap. Listen, it's not that easy now. I know it's not that easy, but there are many different routes that can allow you to, you know, try and get onto the property ladder. So I might do some more videos on that. If you guys will find that interesting, I'll probably do some more videos on that separately. But what I will say, and I think the point of this is, definitely try and clear your debt. Your unsecured debt, you know, chip away it as much as possible. I think that is the primary goal, because, you know, being debt free means you have more capital to invest in yourself, invest in your finances, and obviously have a better outlook on the future. And then when you can do that, try and see, you know, try and do 10% as a minimum if you can do it. If there's things you can cut back on, try and cut back on those things. If there's absolutely not, then obviously find a percentage, the figure that makes sense for you, and obviously work towards saving that diligently on a monthly basis. But if you can do more than 10%, then obviously I would always encourage you guys to do more. And if you don't want to do anything risky in terms of trying to invest for your future, then just put it in an S&P 500 ETF. You're likely to get around 7% annually minimum. I think this year it's probably sitting at around 12%, but it'll fluctuate. And you know, over the next 10, 11, 12 years, you'll definitely be sitting at a nice nest egg that you can use to obviously buy a house, you know, or, you know, do whatever it is that you guys want to do with your finances. I hope you found this video valuable. If you've got any questions about saving or investing, or you want any specific, not advice, but tips, any specific info, private info or direct info to yourselves, then obviously get in the comments, and I will definitely try and get back to you as quickly as possible with any tips that I can, you know, potentially give to you. But, you know, if you want to take my personal situation, like, I've been fortunate enough to buy properties, and I've been fortunate enough to save a lot of money as well, and this is why when I always talk about investing, I always say you need to have like capital saved as well. It's not good just putting all your money into stocks. Make sure you have capital saved, because you never know, you know, what's going to be going on. But there's been other routes to that as well. So obviously, you know, everyone's path is different, and so it all depends on what resources you got around you to help you get to achieve those goals. But don't worry, there's going to be more videos like this coming up where I'm going to get into a lot more detail, and hopefully you guys will find this interesting. If you did, please like, please comment, please subscribe, and I'll catch you next time with another investment video. Peace. 33, 100 grand.